Thank you for tuning in to the World Builder's Anvil, episode 210, Building a Street Gang.
Don't know where to start building your fantasy world?
Do you need more? Does it make sense?
Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination.
This is the place where we will prime your mind.
Now, it's time to heat up the forge.
Break out the mithril ingots and hammer.
Welcome to the World Builder's Anvil. I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller.
Let's sup from the muck of Java and build. Welcome back, lovingly yours. I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And streetwise yours, I am Michael Miller.
Yes, the thug of the pair.
Thug life!
Yeah, I don't think Grand Theft Auto really counts towards that. So.
Pour a couple out for my homies. So,
okay,
go ahead.
So once again, this is the show where we like to tell you how to make things.
Go on. I just realized that I wanted to shout out because it's been like 3 episodes since we've done it,
okay.
but I didn't look it up, so I'm going to look that up right now.
So this is the show where we like to typically go over world building and storytelling elements because for us they're really the same thing. And so one of the things we're coming up for is for the episode you just listened to, and we mentioned it in the other Marcus Marks and the Div-Davars.
And the Div-Davarian bunch.
The Div-Davarian bunch.
Marky Mark and the Div-Davarian bunch.
We've been talking about this gang leader called Thormir. And Thormir is a character who they need to steal an axe from. And there was a little twist, which I won't go over again here because it's the previous episode that just came up with that.
Well, it's a previous episode, which means they already heard it.
They already heard, but I don't want to ruin it for you. So,
well, I know that we have to kill somebody. I know that we're supposed to make it look like the axe was responsible for someone's death.
Yes, which is why you're interacting with this
whether
game.
Or not, like, we're not sure how that's going to occur. Do you want me to say a little bit more about what I know about Thormir?
Go ahead and say what you know about Thormir, and we'll use that as baseline.
We'll use that as baseline. So Marcus, his name is not Marky Mark. Marcus dated his daughter briefly, kind of like Daddy's a street gang, maybe minor mob leader, and we are street urchins, so maybe she's slumming it? Kinda? Because I gotta figure he probably provides for her certainly better than Marcus could. But I took her on a small adventure, and things went south, and I pinned the blame on her, so she got arrested for what I did, and of course, her father was none too pleased with me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it's essentially the playoff there's a typical trope with gang leaders, where they have daughters who date someone, usually considered a lower level criminal than the father would appreciate. If he would want her even date a criminal at all, which her father probably does not care. Michael was not, or Marcus, definitely not Michael, but Marcus was not the right guy for her. Too low down, not even part of his gang.
Oh, that's true. That's an important fact. I forgot about that.
Does nothing for him. It's like you're part of another gang, which, is an alliance, because street life in ancient times, and probably similar to today, I don't know, because, like I said, I've learned most of my knowledge of street gangs from Grand Theft Auto, so however accurate that is.
For me, I would say it was like Menace to Society and Boys in the Hood, so...
That stuff too, but that was so long ago, my memory doesn't go back that far. Even though I know the names.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Colors obviously is another good one, but gangs back then, gangs have developed over time, but they're fundamentally the same thing. It's typically a group of people who the most effective way for them to make money is to do things, and some of which are legal, some of which are not legal. And so kind of what we want to do is flesh out this gang a little bit that you have just witnessed for the first, well, not really for the first time, but we know a few things about them. One, they're they're noted for control of the grain gate, which is where the food wagons come in and out of the city. And so the good thing with that is grain gates are there's a lot of traffic, and so they're extorting people coming through the gate is their main gig. We kind of know that already. We don't know much about the overall criminal life, except there are street gangs, and there's another gang at the docks. And they're not necessarily friendly or unfriendly at this point, but they're definitely competitors. Or at least viewed as a competitor by father, which is not a good place to be.
And father is not someone's father. That is the street name that the leader of the wharf gang goes by. He, I'm saying in air quotes, is known by
because of the term father.
The term father. As opposed to Thoromir, who is the father of the daughter that Marcus briefly dated.
And being fantasy, I want to go over kind of one brief point quickly, is I have this idea of guilds and this idea of gangs. They're not the same thing. So if you know traditional Thieves Guild, which is a very common trope in fantasy, it's like this thing in town, there's a guild master, and it's kind of like the mob in a way where you kind of have to go through them to do any criminal activity. But the only common cause is truly committing crime and paying off the number one person who runs the guild. And there probably will develop those types of institutions in Baurhdrakkas, but they're not quite advanced enough yet to do that. They just kind of haven't culturally grown that much. Guilds are a very new concept that are starting to leak into the trades and will at some point probably leak into the profession of being a thief as well. But it has not yet.
So before we get too far away from it, I'm looking at the new people joining into the Fantasy World Builders Undercroft, which is our closed Facebook group. I may have shouted out one or two of these people before, but I don't mind overlap just to make sure that everyone gets a shout out on the show that joins the group. So I'd like to welcome Harold, Paul. Oh, I so hope I don't butcher this name. Amarina, I'm gonna say Amarina. Amorena.
Which is why I make Michael do all of these, so I can yell at him for butchering names.
Smart plan. I got a couple more. Corey, Jonathan, Cameron, Belinda, and Mike. So, guys, thank you so much for joining the closed Facebook group, and everyone else who's listening who hasn't gotten in there yet, come on in. Totally super friendly, nice group of people. Lots of fun information gets shared there. We got some people that actively just share cool stuff that they find on the Webernets that is helpful to whether it be writing or world creating or what have you. And we also try to do some writing exercises and just, share our fictions and our enthusiasm, So, come on in and join it.
Our love for world building.
Exactly. So come on in and hang out with us. And also, as I've mentioned before, if you want it, it grants you direct access to Jeff and I. So you can throw up a question like, hey, what about on this episode you said, a given thing and I disagree with that. So, feel free to come troll us. That's always fun too.
We love it.
I mean, we
like it. We want more of it.
We're fantasy lovers. Bring on the trolls.
We have fun.
Well, the thing, see, that actually reminds me of, there was this, we were in this fantasy campaign, and there was this moment where we got ambushed by one or two trolls, and our guys were stacked at that point. So we like just butchered them, just slaughtered them, cut them up into pieces, and we didn't know that. I don't know if this is all trolls or the trolls of this world or whatever, but they very quickly the pieces grow into new trolls.
Yes, that's classic D&D.
Okay, so I didn't know this, and neither did most of the party. And we had this brief aside where it's like somebody quickly opens a door that leads outside the world into reality. It's like, hey, quick question: Do trolls regenerate? Because we're all like, oh my god, what is happening? We're just making the situation so much worse. Fortunately, one of our characters was basically a napalm expert, and they solved the situation quickly. But we were like, oh my gosh. It was funny.
Well, that actually reminds me of when I was a very young player at the time, and I was playing a evil mage because that's just my personality.
Of course.
And I was a young player. That's what you do. And we were in a dungeon, strangely enough, and there was a troll in
fancy
there.
that.
And it was like one of those where, like, it started off with a few bad rolls by players, so it was kind of like one of those fights where the group probably would have won, but a few more like bad rolls at the end, and we were all at risk of doom and destruction. And so I'm sitting outside of the room and casting spells because I'm a classic D&D mage. And so I sit there and I'm kind of doing the math in my head because D&D is really a math game.
It is.
Going 2 more bad rolls and I die. and I'm an evil mage. So I literally I took a fireball, which is an area effect spell. I just kind of put it into the room and I shut the door.
That is awful.
The group won the fight.
How many of the group?
I was the only survivor.
About to say, how many of the group perished?
I was the only survivor. And it was strange too, because like when the group came back, it was okay, I'm a barbarian, and it was like the whole rest of the group like basically turned into like barbarians, which at the time all hated magic. So I killed them too.
This is the type of thing that you might expect from certain types of gangs. Backstabbery. Yes. But there's also something to be said for gangs. In some gangs, it's like it's all about a brotherhood. It's all about, exactly. It doesn't matter how much I hate you, we're in the same gang, so we don't screw each other over.
Or there might be some, but there's more cause than not. So for me, the way I draw the line is a guild is a profession-based activity, much like they still are today. And it's about furthering the profession is at least the surface thing of it, and gangs are people that have a common cause, and so I'm pretty sure that this is a gang and not a guild, because I don't think guilds have really pulled up in this.
So we're going to talk about this from a general perspective, and we'll cover some wider ideas. But we're specifically going to be building Thoromir's guild, gang rather.
Gang, and that's what I was getting to here. Is there are 2 things here. We are shooting for a gang, a group with a common cause, of which I don't know, even though they have shown up, I think, or at least been mentioned in every story so far.
Well,
and now one other important thing to know is the way things are determined by Baurhdrakkas law.
Okay.
Because this thing has actual like criminal elements to it. And so a group of people who thieve, if the group is 11 people or less, it's just called thieves. And that's bad. Nothing usually happens to thieves because it's just too much. May
I offer, if it is a group, but it's 11, if it's less than 11, could that be... Mm-hmm. Oh, no, you use the word band. You do use the word. I was going to say, could that be a band? Yeah. But you actually use the term band here, so, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And from 11 to 33, which these numbers are culturally derived, 11 to 33 is considered a gang.
Okay.
So in a way, saying that it's a gang depicts manpower. 33 to 330 are a band. Most city-type, urban-type organizations are not bands because typically local leaders would become very nervous and it would probably cause a conflict with local political officials. And then if your group goes over 330, you will be considered an army. Lord save your soul.
Well, what about a local political figure who only had a town defense of less than 330, would they consider that a band, or would they consider that a smaller piece of a larger body and say, oh, this is the army?
Typically, you consider his army by the total troops he could raise, not by the number of troops who are raised. So he would say, this is my army, even if he's only got 50 guys. So he might have 50 guys who are like, let's say, like he uses to patrol his castle, to garrison his castle, but he can raise up 500. That would help give him position in the army. And you do notice, actually, there are types of gangs, and this is one we have to determine now for our gang. We know it's a gang size, and we know it's a gang. So we know there's probably more towards 33 people because of what they own. The grain gate is very lucrative, so it attracts people to it. There are types of gangs that are common in this time period. There are criminal gangs. The idea is they just go do illegal things together. There are guilds. which once again this is not. There are political gangs, which they're not super common in Baurhdrakkas itself, more common, in other types of cultures, but it's the idea where political leaders have people who owe them favors on the street who will do things like beat down even other political opponents, sometimes murdering. There's a famous incident in Rome where a brother was murdered by a political gang. His brother took office and then was also murdered by a gang. So very common to use in politics, but it's typically more of the common folks on the street who owe favors to political figures. Patronage is not a huge thing in Baurhdrakkas, so it's not. It's probably not going to be a political gang. It could be an ethnic gang, but they're the common ethnic group around, so it's probably not an ethnic gang. They could be a youth gang, just young people who have trouble getting work. That's probably the most common reason for gangs. And family, it's our family. This is just what we do. We're trying to get ahead, and we'll do what it takes. So we stick together. We maybe outsource, and there are other people who aren't part of our family who are in the gang, but they'll never get to leadership because they're not part of the family. And then a legal gang. So if you have an unsavory lord, he might run the grain gate and extort all the people coming through, saying, "Oh, if you want to make it to the market in town where you'll make money, you're going to have to pay us a little extra, a little percentage, or your wagon could, get burned coming through the gate."
It'd be shame if somebody broke your axle while you were sleeping. I mean, wagon repair is so expensive, and since you've only got that cabbage to sell this week,
and by axle, I mean your femur.
paying us 10 shillings to keep it safe is really just a small price. So it's an investment in your future, really.
Yes. So, but it's technically legal because it's your local lord, and where it might not even be considered light, they'll kind of call it a tax, and there's nothing you can really do. There's no governing body to go
to complain about because they're it.
Yeah. And that's where you get but you do get criminals like Am because of lords like this. So she's technically considered a criminal, even though her lord, in today's standards, would be considered the bad person.
And when you think about these, like a criminal gang, a guild, political, ethnic, youth gang, a family gang, a legal gang, you think about gangs in the real world, and a lot of these are multi-layered. You'll get ones that are a lot of these. I mean, immediately you think of the mob. The mob is a criminal organization. They're absolutely a guild. Some pieces of them have political influence. They're definitely ethnic. They might have smaller youth gangs that fall under them, where they're just basically training what will be wise guys. And of course they're family related, and some they'll have legal influence also. So it's like you might have something like, if you're talking about the mafia, they fall into every one of those categories.
And typically what happens too is over time, as cultures develop, you start getting hybrids of these things together, and they become multi-city, where right now they're typically very locally based, and they might have relationships and knowledges with gangs in other town, but it's not like what we think of as the mob, at least what we think of in movies today, where it's multinational.
Because then you consider like the Bloods or the Crips. You think about like the Ravenos, or even just old school gypsies, or even modern gypsies. Like there's all kinds of the Irish travelers. The
Malkavians.
There you go.
I heard Ravenos, so I had to.
Well, that's what. Yeah, of course. So, so the leader is Thormir. Their main.
Well, before we go there, what type of game do you think this should be?
Well, definitely.
I think it's criminal.
I don't think. Well, when the word guild is there, what would be defining of that? Like, are they teaching a skill?
Exactly. Well, essentially, it's a guild structure like for a union hall. So it's like you have apprentices and you have people at different levels. They're expected to essentially bring money in. This is kind of a mob basis, right? It's like they have to bring money in based on their level, determines their level of skill. They have to give a kickback to the guild master to stay in. But the only common cause for a guild is actually payment of money.
I think what you need to do to give us a designation is decide what kind of person and leader Thormir is, because if for sake of argument you want it to be guild, then what skill will he trickle down of his own experience to lower members?
I don't think it is. I think he likes to extort people at the gate, so he likes big guys who can scare people who come through the gate to say, hey, if you want to make it down to the market today, you're going to pay us some money.
I think he's criminal and maybe has some really low-level political, and I'm not going to say political like he has an influence on the politics, but maybe he's bought off some local law to leave him alone.
The guys at the gate just never pay attention, never see his guys. So he owns the gate guards. So either the captain who runs the gate or something like that. So there's some political ties, but I think it's just largely a criminal organization. I don't see him as ethnically based. They are Baurhdrakkas, but I think Thormir would hire anyone who could crack a skull to get him some more money.
So then I think he's just a straight criminal. There's not a whole lot of skill.
He owns a very lucrative criminal thing in this town.
What's his main thing? Sounds like racketeering.
Well, we'll get down to that after the leader Thormir.
Okay.
So his main criminal activity is extortion for people coming through the gate.
Okay.
Or racketeering, depending on what you want to put.
You could call that that's
half a dozen.
Yeah. Racketeering tends to be protection scams. And it depends on how he does his gate scam. It could be considered racketeering or the other. So, threatening people for money. Give us money. We're not going to steal it from you. You're going to give it to us because otherwise we're going to beat you up.
And you come here every week. So, when you come through, you have to give us money. If we're not here and you get through and don't pay us, we'll go out to your home. Because we know where you live because you're a local farmer. And that's the great thing about these days is it's very hard to go long distance with your goods.
Right.
Cities are very regulated in the sense where if you're bringing in a wagon of grain, there's a reason why they call it a grain gate. It's not a suggestion.
It's the only place they go through. And the other thing that you raise a good point about it, it's like, okay, Farmer Bob, that's all fine. You don't want to pay me now? Fine. You want to say that you'll tell the guards over there? Fine. You won't pay me right now. But you're gonna pay me 10 shillings now. Or I'm going to come out to your farm tomorrow. We're going to break half your equipment. I'm going to bring 20 guys with me. You might have the guards right now, but I know where you live, and you're not going to have guards out there when I come. And then then you're going to have to deal with all your broken stuff, and you're going to pay me 30 shillings. So
every week.
Yeah.
So it's definitely extortion racketeering, I think, is the main thing.
And I keep saying shillings, but what is your currency?
It is. A shilling is a fine term to call it. It's just a copper coin. So
fair enough.
So So it's the same idea. And the thing to keep in mind here is in the Iron Age, there's typically not a rigorous legal structure like there is today. So it's not like it's like a drug gang. Probably not. There's probably no legal drugs. And there might be drugs that cause problems. If they are, a local lord might outlaw them, and so there could be. But those types of laws are a lot less common. Typically, the older the crimes legal codes get, it's more of how a lord feels, and essentially the rules are a lot of times they're set up in a way to where you get punished for damages to other people. So when there's someone who's damaged by you, but like I said, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, you're not getting hunted down if you break into someone's house. Even if
I would say it would depend on whose house it was. If they were a well-to-do person, maybe.
If they have political connections,
that's what I mean.
It would be uncommon for the town guard to come out because you broke into someone's house. Now, them and their friends.
What if they know though? What if it's like, well, look, I saw him do it. That's the guy. He took.
It's not the point of the town guard's point is to guard the town for the Lord.
Well, right.
And so,
no, I get that.
So the idea is, you're not going to ever, unless they Probably if they caught you in the act, they might try and do something. Like if they caught you jumping over the thing. There's a terminology of, and I forget exactly what it's called, but you're supposed to call out, and your neighbors will respond, because if they have the same problem, they're going to call out and need help too. And especially in Baurhdrakkas society, you're expected to take care of your own problem.
Well, that's what I was actually going to say. Is this the type of thing where it's like, well, I guess you should have had a better lock on your door then, Like, well, so what you're saying is you don't know how to take care of your family and your belongings.
Well, you go down there and get your money back. And maybe you take half the block with you and go get your money back. We don't care. Just leave us alone.
Yeah.
Oh, did you pay us the tax money? Okay, go into their home and take their daughters. Yeah.
He's like, good, they eat a lot. Take them. I wanted sons.
I only have a son, but he kind of looks like a girl, so that must be who you meant.
Take him. Can't lift anything. So, the next thing that I was thinking, and I'm not looking at the notes right this second, is power structure. And you tell me if I'm getting ahead of it. Does he have a second in command? A specific second in command?
I do not have one listed down here. He probably has a lieutenant.
I would think at least one, maybe only one, because it's such a small group.
They're not a huge gang, but I think there's definitely a lieutenant here.
I think one big dude that's just in similar age to him, some guy he can trust.
Probably a sibling, maybe his younger brother or something like that.
What is his name? I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank. Oliver. Fagin's right-hand man in Oliver.
I don't remember.
I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank on his name. I feel so stupid right this second. All the useless character names that are stored in my brain, and I'm spacing on this one. It's
and I don't really remember names typically in general. Like, I don't even know what your name is, so asking me to know someone else's name is kind of a generous suggestion. I do appreciate it.
I prefer that you call me Lord of your World. This would be fine. Master and Commander works.
I was thinking Sally.
Sally? All right, moving on. So let's create a second in command. My vote is that he's just a little younger. You want to go with sibling? You want it to be a brother?
We'll call it the little brother.
Right.
But he's the younger brother, I think, who's really big.
Well, that's something. He's a big dude.
And not smart.
I'm thinking of some guy who, nobody's going to mess with. It's like Thormir's not here right now, but he is. So it's not like you guys can run Ruckshaw, because Thormir's not here, but because his brother's is here, and no one messes with him.
I'm thinking kind of like Hound Big. Not Mountain Big.
Yeah.
But Hound Big's big enough.
Is big enough. And is he proficient with any particular weapon? Does he have any, aside to just pounding face, what else is he? Because let's give him his three defining characteristics. Obviously, his size is one.
His size? He's a day laborer, in theory, so he's proficient with the sludge.
Okay. So maybe he uses a warhammer or something like.
He just uses his sludge,
of course, because that wouldn't look awkward to be walking around with, I'm going to work, And
he's a day laborer. Makes perfect sense. And boy, that really hurts my face thinking about that.
Yeah, getting hit with a sledge is a bad day.
He's missing his front teeth.
You like to maim him, huh?
But specifically his front teeth, as in someone obviously knocked his teeth out.
Mm-hmm.
He lost his teeth somehow, and you guys probably don't know how, and probably anyone who knows about it wouldn't have the courage to talk about it.
Missing front.
Because they wouldn't want trouble with him.
Of course not. Would he be a good-looking guy if he had the teeth?
Yeah, I think, like a general decent-looking large fellow or whatever. Not not really well, he's lost some teeth, his front teeth. which makes it look a little ridiculous.
At the same time, in the
it's not uncommon
in the Iron Age, like not having a.
But you'll also find out pre-refined sugars, even today in societies that don't have refined sugars, tooth decay is very uncommon.
This
gum disease is very uncommon.
True, but still.
They would be more gnarly looking, but probably still have them. But it definitely would not be uncommon for people to lose their teeth either. But I just like the imagery of it. You know, this big guy who opens his mouth and you just see like gums, and people know that he must have lost a fight somewhere.
Yeah.
But no one would talk about it.
But no one's seen evidence to support this.
No one's seen evidence.
I mean, who knows? Maybe
knew.
he lost him young, and it wasn't even a fight. Maybe it was an accident.
Well, actually, the rumor is that's why Thormir's in charge. That's the rumor.
That's the rumor. Like Thormir put his teeth out at some point.
Yeah, like Thormir put his listen, I'm the big brother, and that's the rumor, but no one really knows.
Personality-wise and relationship-wise, is he's cool with Thormir being in charge? He follows his rule.
Loyal.
He's loyal. Like, does he? Okay, so there's no desire for usurpation. Is that a word?
No, he has
usurpation.
Yeah, it sounds convincing to me.
You know, he's gonna usurp.
Yeah, no, I understand what you meant. You know, I think he's loyal. Okay. I think he needs direction.
Okay.
So he's not an idiot, but like he kind of needs to be given parameters.
Yeah, he doesn't see the big picture the way Thormir does.
And I think he likes to fight.
Well, why not?
So yeah, I mean, he's been in lots of fights, and it's sort of known that it's almost like preferred when he's there that you don't pay, and which actually makes it almost never that anyone does not pay when he's there, because you have this big guy like with no teeth, like smiling, like you better give me your money,
holding a sledge.
Yeah,
that he'll probably break your wagon with. So you'll have to. So you'll have to deal with that. Okay, so we have a super intimidating enforcer. We've got Thormir, and everybody below that. I would assume at that point, either just he tells them what to do, and I imagine certain groups of this group, because at this point we're talking about like some 20 dudes, whether it's dudes or kids, probably fall into little gangs, like a crew of like 5 or 6. Like, yeah, we do this sort of thing. Like we run a pickpocketing operation in the market, and you know these guys tend to do break-ins, and sometimes they do crossover, and
they don't do any clever crimes. But essentially, if you get mugged, let's call it. We need like a bloody alley kind of good name for a bloody alley.
Oh, like a Batman sort of crime alley sort of thing.
Yeah, like give me your crime alley.
Well, how about we do this?
Death cul-de-sac.
How about it be right across from where?
That's what I'm thinking. Is like it looks like the road.
Hang on, let me get my thought.
Okay.
Out. Let's have it be right across from where all the butchers are. So you call it like Butcher's Lane, because it leads right. It's not where the butchers are, but once you cross the block, you're at the butchers. They call that Butcher's Lane because people get hurt down Butcher's Lane.
No, I like that. I like it's Butcher's Lane, and what I think is it looks like the main road. And you don't have to
say lane. It could be, I don't know if you want to call it something else. Like
we'll leave it for lane for now, and we'll change it for next episode when we record the one that has just happened for them.
Yes, this is, again, if we weren't clear about this, we're doing this time. This is a time traveling episode. Yes. Well, we've done this twice before, where we're recording this episode first, but the episode you previously listened to, we're going to record later. If that makes sense. So you heard what doesn't exist yet. Like the episode you just listened to, from the future that Jeff and I haven't created yet.
Yes. And we're actually doing this back in 42 CE, even before computers. Now, the thing is, old cities looked like they were easy to get through, but they were very complicated, and it was a defense strategy. So I think it looks like the way you go to the market, but it's a dead end. And it's an intentional dead end. And if you were invading the city, there would be archers and stuff all on the rooftops. It would be ambush point.
So they actually don't want the city to move the way it would be convenient to move around a city. It's purposefully convoluted just for invasion purposes.
Just because of as the city grew up, there was a lot of invasions going on, so it was more of a fear of an army coming through the gates and getting to and taking the city. So the city is intentionally confusing to get, unless you're someone from there. And so like what looks like the right way is sometimes the right way and sometimes not the right way, and it's on purpose. It's kind of like if you go to Old Boston, is built that way.
Boston's a mess.
But it was built that way because they were afraid of pirates landing and ransacking the town.
Don't get me started on pirates.
But literally, you did do that in old towns. Unless you were like really old, like Romans wouldn't do that. There were some civilizations that veered away from that, but most civilizations were worried about their towns being raided or conquered, so they would make the streets confusing because it was a defensive strategy for the town.
Okay.
And so they own this. It's right near the grain gate as well, too.
Okay.
And near the butchers.
So we've got and I don't know how many gates the city has, but maybe the grain gate is physically not too far from where a livestock gate would be. So that way a main road comes to the city, but then as you get to the walls, they separate. So you've got like
well essentially it's the commerce gate.
Okay,
but the thought was grain, but then all commerce really is filtered through this gate over land. Okay,
so this would be
so
anything coming in to be butchered would still be going through the same gate. Okay.
Oh yes. So yeah, if you go to the butchers and you don't pay them off, you're in big trouble because they'll see that. And essentially, they kind of control and have a little piece of all of the shops down on Butcher's Lane.
Well, let's slow down here just a second, though. We're still talking about going back to your legal rules. You're saying that this gang is less than 33 people. Mm-hmm. How much are they really going to be able to control with only that many people? Because if you want to pick a number, if you want to put them at the high end, let's say they have exactly 30 guys, like they're pushing the envelope on the term gang. Yep. But you got to figure.
Which I'm thinking.
You got to figure. Sometimes some of those people get caught, or leave, or get killed. Mm-hmm. So he's got to. Those numbers fluctuate a little here and there, right?
Yeah, but which would always happen, in an ancient city where typically the mortality rate's higher than the birth rate. Anyway.
So. How is he able? I don't think he controls quite as much as you're making it. You're making him sound like a criminal overlord, and I don't think he's that powerful.
No, the thing is, he attracts people because of the wealth from the grain gate. Mm-hmm. So he uses the money to control the grain gate, and which gives him money and prestige. So when I say he controls, he has a percentage of. He's in bed with all of the business owners on that street.
Well.
With the landlords, so like if tenants get out of line, his gang will go in and break knees, and you think, there's like 300 people there in his small little turf. There's probably about 300 people that live there, but you have people like Ogre who are willing to smash your face in the middle of the street during the day.
Oh, is that what we're nicknaming the little brother, Ogre?
Well, no, but that might end up being his nickname. I'll probably call him Tiny, though. I like irony. But, it's like he's willing to crack skulls right there in the middle of the street.
I think we can do better than Tiny, but I'm writing that down for now.
So you like the reverse psychology there. So, the thing is, they are willing to use violence openly. The chance the town guard will get involved unless you're politically connected is almost nothing.
Yeah, because he's like, well, you're not doing anything against the Lord.
Like if the prince's son got robbed in the street, he would lose. The town guard would come down there and they'd all get killed. But most people aren't going to have the courage, especially if they live right there, to try and band together to do anything about it because they have this.
Because my thought is, if something like that happened, then Tiny would turn to the guard and just stare him down like, all right, let's go. And unless the guard has like a bunch of dudes with him, it's just him and the other guard that he walks around with. He's like, I don't need that trouble.
But remember, Thormir owns the guard gate captain. He pays them off.
I understand that, but I'm just saying in the scenario that he does some open violence at some point, and let's say there were guards that were not bought.
He would not do it at the gate. Would not happen at the gate. And that's because he wouldn't want to embarrass the guy who he has paid.
Well, of course.
So the violence does not happen at the gate. The threatening happens at the gate. And then if you come into the city, right past the street that they're all on, which you'll probably go past and maybe accidentally go down, then that's when you get, like, oh my God, what's his name from that show? Oh my goodness!
Wow, that was
Blazing Saddles.
Fake.
from Blazing Saddles, the big guy, Mongo. Yeah. You know, Tiny comes out and Mongo's the horse. On your
Well,
wagon.
the other thing is if they they got the whole gang there. It's like, okay, you didn't want to pay us at the gate. We were asking for 5 shillings at the gate, but since you didn't pay it, now we're robbing you. We're taking everything on you because there's 20 of us and you're alone.
And we're not going to sell it, so it's like you didn't pay us. So next time you come to town, you have to pay us twice. Or some crap like that.
Of course.
That's right.
Okay, so moving on. Let's get more on. So we've got the leaders. We've got the main criminal activities. Type of control. You have...
That's what we're working on right now. And don't ignore that. I don't know why those words end up there. That should be Butcher's Lane. That was sort of the power base. I don't know.
No, that's fine. That's
what
fine.
those words mean. Community support. Now, this is important.
You said that quickly. Community support.
Support. Because you need some level of support in the community you're in.
The community needs to understand that you're part of the system.
That's right. And so there's a couple ways you do it, through fear or love or both. And so the question is, how do you think he controls his small turf? Part of it's money, obviously, but that's implied fake love.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think I think the money comes in and the money doesn't go out. I think he contributes to the community with labor and or favors and tasks. So somebody might come to him and be like, listen, this other shop owner just opened up near me and it's going to put my shop out of business because he's closer to the main roadway, so anybody coming in hits his shop before they hit mine. So
and its prices are better.
Right. Is there anything you can do? Because I've got 4 kids and I don't even know this guy. He just moved into town. Can you help me out? Like, yeah, you've been paying us all this time. Like, we can help you out.
Exactly. So I think it leans a little heavy on intimidation, but I think there's some give back to the community. Like if someone's spouse gets killed, they're probably not going to go hunt the guy down and kill the person who did anything about it. But like they'll make sure the widow is taken care of and they don't have to worry.
I think
that might not be as good as you think. I'm making it sound.
The reason
she'll be paid.
What's up?
But she'll be paid and her kids will be taken care of.
But see, I'm specifically saying I don't think that's what occurs. Because you got to figure he's got the gang and he's got to take care of all of those mouths. Plus he wants a nice chunk for himself. So my thought is when a scenario like that would occur, he'd be like, okay, well, she needs another man in her house. Let's find her a guy. Maybe.
Oh, it might be that.
But I don't think he's breaking off a piece of his money to hand that out to the community.
Oh, you're kind of misunderstanding what I'm thinking there too. It's sort of like she's pretty. Well, why don't we have her come work at the tavern we're all at all the time, and then she can get the money to pay for her family, so she gets forced into prostitution. Okay. So
I would sooner see that.
Not necessarily good. Yeah, I don't mean that as like he's an open heart loving person.
Yeah, I don't see him that way. So except obviously.
Except like if it was someone really close to him, which
daughter,
very few people.
Forget. I'm sure he's probably doing his best to make his daughter streetwise, but also not let her into it. Not like he doesn't want her in the fold.
He'd probably either want her to marry. Typically, the idea is you want them to marry someone that benefits your family. So maybe he wants her to marry the guard captain's son, or marry into nobility or a rich merchant. But something to help get his family into something.
Okay.
Maybe that was the... Oh, my goodness. Yeah, you're so dead. Now, political support.
What are you talking about?
I'm sorry. That was just...
Oh, when you say you're so dead, you're referring to whatever trouble Marcus is going to get into.
Yes.
Lovely.
Yes. No.
Lovely. All right, so
now political
support. I'm not thinking he's that high up.
No, and I think he'll use a little bit of corruption and fear, but only in very limited circumstances. Like a couple of cards feel brave, they're on your street, and they look like they're going to interfere. You're like, listen, this is our street. We take care of this street. You go back to your wall and leave us alone, and everything will be, here's a coin, go screw, or you're going to get hurt. And the guards will probably go, okay, I'll go back to my
kind of like you've seen Sin City or read Sin City.
I think Sin City would be a very good sort of
like the girl when the cops go down, when the cops accidentally go into Old Town, like they're like they might send him back without his clothes, they might embarrass him or maybe slap him around a little bit, but they always send him out alive.
Yes, exactly. So, I think we have a good formation for our little gang here. Do you want
to make a couple little individuals, like maybe some of the crew chiefs?
I don't think they really have crew chiefs.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, is there anybody in the gang that you expect Marcus and Gregor to interact with aside to the two top dogs? Like maybe I don't know. I'm just wondering if you need that for any interaction purposes.
For the story as is planned, it's not needed. Yep.
Well, all right. So things to think about when you're making your medieval gang, or maybe your futuristic gang, cyberpunk-y gang. I think it's important to understand power structure. I think it's important that you understand who's in charge of the gang and how it goes. Like,
and how they maintain. You can't use strictly violence to stay in charge of an area, or attrition will kill you. Because, like Michael says, cities are dangerous.
And not only that, even just to stay in charge of the group. Like, you can use violence to a point, but if nobody trusts you or likes you, or there's no positive benefit for them being under your leadership, then they'll stop following you, or they'll just be like, well, we just wait till he's sleeping, we kill him, and then I'm in charge. Because obviously I killed him, so that means I'm the strongest. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that's one of the problems that I have with Negan in The Walking Dead, because I have.
How does he stay in charge?
I just don't believe anybody would put up with his garbage for as long as.
No, sooner or later, his gang kills him. That's how he loses, and it probably wouldn't be very long. Because, like you said, especially if you're the only one, the crazy "I will kill you" thing works until you fall asleep.
Well, or until somebody doesn't care to live or die anymore. But my point is that, like, when it comes to
if you're too successful,
even if you're in a position of criminal gang, there still needs to be a level of leadership. Like, you can't just be, crazy. Like, you can't just be super violent. Like, there still has to be, like, say what you want about Negan, he is a solid leader. He's a scumbag and a sociopath, but he does know how to lead, which is...
Well, I'm not familiar with this character just now.
Okay.
So I got bored with the show.
Regardless, my point is that if you're making even a street level gang, one person needs to stick out and make the big decisions.
And it has to be more than just the violence, just the sociopathness. Yeah. It's important, but the actual violence itself will never.
Because if it is just violence and sociopath, now you're talking about a raiding party, not a gang.
But even then, sooner or later, you fall asleep and they just kill you.
Well, not necessarily, because if you're talking about like a barbaric society where the strongest is the leader, then they'll be like, well, he's the strongest and we always come out on top, so he's in charge, he leads, he goes up first, and we keep following him. There might not be a point where there's, depending on the structure of the society, it might not be the type of thing, well, we're going to backstab him if they like the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but even then, though, you just keep getting challenged over and over again if that was it. It's never just it. Because the thing is, you still need some kind of skills to organize and to get people to listen to you, or else they'll just keep coming at you one after another.
I agree. The point that I am making is the distinction between, if that's how the rule works, it's not a gang. It's a raiding party. Like, you could not have that type of structure and have the guy making...
In my world, there's no difference.
Well, yeah, because there has to be.
Yeah.
Like, because
no.
So if I had a guy that fit the description I'm talking about, and all we did was violent thievery, you would call that a gang.
That would be a gang, and it would probably be a short-lived game because you would build up enmity in the community, and they would turn against you. And you
okay, let's. I think where we're getting caught up is that semantics. I think when you're using the word gang, you're using your world's legal definition of the word. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Well, you're in the wrong world.
That's fine. That's fine. We'll move on. My point, my biggest point was simply that a gang leader has to have something going for him as a leader to have people follow him, or people want him.
And all I did was agree with you, and then you start arguing with me.
Well, it's more fun to argue with you when we're on the same side because it confuses you, and I enjoy that. So, power structure. You need to have the leader be distinctive. I like to have like at least one other guy, like we have Tiny in this case. You might have a few lieutenants or maybe like heads of like little crews, like 4 or 5 man crews, because that's what's going to happen. Like you got like 4 or 5 guys, they came in around the same age, they're going to gravitate towards each other because of basic similarities, and someone's going to stand out and they're going to make more decisions than the other guys. Some people
you'll probably have at least 3 groups of thieves.
Some people lead and some people follow.
And I'd say here you have a lot of people who take shifts at the grain gate, and you have other people who sort of will start to explore other options. And as long as they're bringing money in to the common cause of the gang and strengthening the gang, hey,
I'm gonna say as a finish your thought.
Oh,
that was it. Okay.
That was just.
I'm gonna say as source material, go watch the first season of The Wire. Everything that they do on the street level of their drug organization is exactly the type of stuff you would have. You'd have lookouts. You'd have a couple guys who are organizing money, a couple guys who are organizing product. You know what I'm saying? Like people, even though you have a gang, they have to get organized. They have roles. They have jobs. Exactly. And as in this organization, as they got older and as they understand what's going on, they get promoted effectively. They move to a different position. They get taught different things and learn more skills. So for the world building task of the day, let us know what are your favorite moments. Wait, what have you got there? Is that the wrong one? I think
that never got updated. I'll do this, and you can do the real world one. So for the world building task of the day, create a criminal organization in your world.
I was going to say I could have gone with that, but I just started reading your notes.
Then go to our Facebook group. The one time you read my notes.
Well, no, because I've done this a couple of times, and it's always the times that you don't update the world building task that's the time that I chose not to read it beforehand and try to read it on the show, which I don't like doing. I don't like to just read it the first time I read it being the time I'm saying it, on the show. But I've done it 2 or 3 times, and it happened to be the time that you didn't update it from the prior episode. So there you go.
All right. So now, what is the real world task?
The real world task is avoid criminal gang activity. I'm gonna say, look, if you don't get caught, if only for research purposes, maybe make some friends with some gang members, talk to them, sit down, have an interview.
Our lawyers are texting me going, no.
No. I'm not encouraging illegal activity. I'm saying learn about it. There's nothing wrong with education, Jeff.
I'm saying be safe and learn from movies, and it might be BS, but it's best not to really know.
That's all I got.
All right. See, I hope you guys had fun this episode. We did, and we'll see you next episode. Thank you so much for listening to the World Builders Anvil.
We would love it if you would share the World Builders Anvil with 2 of your friends.
And so would they.
If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting.
Take them to Stitcher or iTunes, or best of all, just send them to our website, www.gardul.com.
That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike while the mithril's hot.